it talks, let's take a look. Life and hope in every book.
Welcome, curious minds. Today we're not just opening a book, we're launching into, well, one of the most truly astonishing and visually profound journeys in ancient literature. The Book of Ezekiel. Right from the get-go, Ezekiel tells us the heavens opened, and what he saw was this cascade of imagery, so vivid, honestly, so otherworldly, it really challenges our understanding of divine encounters. And, the nature of reality itself, how the sacred just utterly transforms human experience. It's a proper deep dive into encounters that feel as transformative and maybe as challenging today as they must have been thousands of years ago.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, our source material is key excerpts pulled right from the Book of Ezekiel itself. But to really get these visions, you have to understand the setting, the historical stage. Ezekiel wasn't in Jerusalem. He was a priest, yes, but he was among the exiles. Over by the Kebar River in Babylonia, we're talking around 593 BC, specifically the 5th year of King Jehoiachin's exile.
Yeah.
So our mission here is to pull out the most important nuggets, the key insights from these divine visions. We need to dissect their immediate context, the prophecies they carried, which often pretty unsettling, let's be honest. And then look at their broader implications. What do they tell us about God's actions, human responsibility, and ultimately hope?
Right, and trust us, this deep dive is going to be a genuine shortcut to getting properly informed about one of the most, I think, visually striking and significant prophetic books out there. You're going to hear details that will make you pause, maybe think, and perhaps just wonder at the sheer scale of it all. So let's not waste any time. Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with that absolutely monumental, completely jaw-dropping first vision.
The chariot of glory, a vision beyond comprehension.
Okay, so chapter 1. We're right there with Ezekiel by the Kebar River. And what he sees is just cosmic. It starts, he says, with a great storm wind roaring out of the north. But this isn't your average storm. It's a massive cloud, and inside it there's this fire taking hold of itself.
Ooh.
That phrasing alone is something else. It suggests like a self-sustaining blaze, right? An active living fire, divine maybe. And from inside this fire there's this glow, an amber glow, or radiance. Now that Hebrew word, kashmal, that's pretty unique, isn't it? What does that really capture?
It absolutely is unique. Kashmal is, it's quite enigmatic, only shows up in Ezekiel, often translated amber, sometimes gleaming bronze. But if you look at the Septuagint, the ancient Greek translation, which was super important for early readers, they translated it as electrum.
Electrum, like the gold and silver alloy.
Exactly. Highly prized, brilliant luster, so think molten, radiant metal. A self-sustaining glow, it just is. It sets this tone of extraordinary, almost indescribable energy and brilliance right from the start.
Okay, so out of this fire, this kashmal glow, Ezekiel sees living beings. They look sort of human-like at first glance, but then the details get wild. Each one has 4 faces, a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle, and 4 wings each. And what's really fascinating is how Ezekiel seems to struggle to even describe them. The Hebrew text itself apparently shifts between masculine and feminine plurals for these beings. It's like he's wrestling with language itself, trying to pin down something completely outside our categories.
That struggle says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It highlights just how other this vision is. And those faces, they're deeply symbolic. The ox, for instance, is often linked to the cherub.
Ah, the throne guardians.
Precisely. Cherubim were key figures in ancient Near Eastern thought, often depicted as throne bearers for deities, guardians. You find similar part human, part animal creatures in ancient sculptures all over the region, holding up thrones or the sky. So this could be God accommodating his revelation using symbols Ezekiel's culture would recognize.
Keep elevating them.
Exactly. Elevating them to this completely new cosmic level. It shows God's transcendence, but also his willingness to make himself known, even if it stretches language to the breaking point.
And then no mess. Wheels within wheels. Okay, now it gets really mind-bending. He says they look like Tarshish stone. We don't know exactly what that is, but maybe topaz. Something dazzling, crystalline. But the structure, all 4 looked alike, but structured like a wheel within a wheel.
Help us visualize this. What does that actually mean? It sounds like, I don't know, advanced technology or something. It does sound incredibly advanced, doesn't it? It's probably not just concentric circles. Many scholars think it's more like a sphere or a globe-like structure. Imagine 2 wheels set at perfect right angles to each other.
Like a gyroscope.
Sort of, yeah, but on this immense divine scale. And the genius of that structure is movement. It means they could move instantly in any of the 4 cardinal directions, forward, back, left, right, without needing to pivot or turn.
Wow. Effortless, immediate motion.
Exactly. It speaks to unhindered, immediate divine action. And then there are the rims, described as high and awesome and completely full of eyes all around.
Eyes everywhere, constant awareness.
That's one interpretation. Omnipresence, maybe? Or perhaps just the sheer, overwhelming aliveness and sentience of this divine apparatus. It's both awe-inspiring and deeply unsettling.
And the movement of these beings and wheels is perfectly synchronized, like a single entity. The text says their spirit, or maybe wind, that same divine animating force was in the wheels, guiding them. And the sound of just their wings was like rushing waters, like the voice of the Almighty, or even the tumult of an army. It's this overwhelming auditory experience of immense power. But the vision goes higher still, right?
Yes, the focus lifts. Above the living beings, Ezekiel sees something described as a platform. It's glittering, he says, awesomely like ice or crystal, a kind of celestial floor or firmament. And above that platform, a throne, made of sapphire, shaped like a throne, deep blue, royal, majestic.
And on the throne.
High on the throne, there's a form that appeared to be a man. But this figure is radiating light, surrounded by that amber glow like a fire, from the waist up and from the waist down like pure fire. And all around him, a brilliant light, like a rainbow after rain.
The rainbow, a covenant symbol.
Exactly. But here, it's radiating this overwhelming glory. And Ezekiel is explicit. This, he says, was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord.
Incredible. Just incredible. You can absolutely understand why Ezekiel just falls face down at this point, completely overwhelmed. So, okay, this sets the stage for his whole prophetic ministry. But what's the big takeaway for us trying to grasp this? It seems to be about the very nature of God, not static, not distant, but this dynamic, self-moving, all-aware force, totally unbound by our physics, moving with cosmic purpose, a God of overwhelming active presence.
That's it. Active, present, beyond comprehension, yet revealing himself. That's the foundation this whole book builds on.
The watchman's burden, symbolic acts of judgment.
So, with that vision still burning in his mind, that encounter with absolute divine authority, God immediately gives Ezekiel this huge responsibility. He's to be a watchman for the house of Israel. And this isn't just, a suggestion. It's a heavy, serious charge. What did that actually involve? And how did God equip him for it?
It involved immense personal accountability. The commission is stark, really. Ezekiel must warn the wicked to turn from their ways, and he must also warn the righteous not to turn to wickedness. And God makes it crystal clear. If Ezekiel fails to deliver the warning and someone perishes in their sin, their blood is on his hands.
Wow, that's intense pressure.
It is. It's similar to what other prophets faced. Moses, Isaiah were told people might not listen, but the message had to be given regardless. Ezekiel couldn't opt out, and God knew how hard it would be. He prepared him. He told Ezekiel, basically, I've made your face as hard as their faces, your forehead harder than flint like diamond.
So divine resilience.
Exactly, a supernatural toughness to withstand the inevitable rejection and hostility from this rebellious house, as God calls them. And that same wind or spirit from the vision, it literally lifts Ezekiel up, transports him, energizes him out of this stunned paralysis, empowering him for the task.
And then come the symbolic acts.
Yeah.
Chapters 4, 5, 12. These are just shocking. They're not subtle metaphors. They're like performance art, designed to shock people into paying attention. First, he has to lie on his side for 390 days straight for Israel's sin, then another 40 days for Judah's punishment, just lying there day after day, physically acting out the long, grinding siege of Jerusalem. A living prophecy.
It's incredibly visceral, and it gets even more graphic, designed to provoke maximum disgust and convey the horror to come. He's initially told to cook his food, his siege rations, over human excrement.
Oh, wow. That's unimaginable.
Oh.
Especially for a priest, right? Concerned with purity.
But exactly. The defilement is the point. It symbolizes the utter desperation, famine, and contamination they would face during the siege. Ezekiel protests, understandably, saying he's never been defiled like that. And God shows some mercy, allowing him to use cow manure instead.
It's still pretty grim.
Still grim, yes. The message of defilement, scarcity, the breakdown of all norms, it's powerful and unavoidable. It's about the utter degradation awaiting them.
And it doesn't stop there. He then has to take a sharp sword, like a barber's razor, and shave his head and beard, then divide the hair meticulously into 3 parts. A third gets burned in the middle of his model siege city, a third he strikes with the sword all around the model, and the last third, scattered to the wind.
And he's told God will pursue even those scattered ones with a drawn sword.
So this is acting out the precise fate of Jerusalem's people.
Exactly. It's a terrifyingly specific visual prophecy. A third consumed by plague and famine inside the besieged city, another third falling by the sword outside the walls, and the final third scattered among the nations, still pursued by violence even in exile, utter destruction and dispersion. And these aren't random punishments. They directly connect to Jerusalem's deep-seated wickedness, which chapter 5 spells out. God says he set Jerusalem among the nations to be a light, a place of honor, but instead it became more arrogant than the nations around. They defied God's laws, becoming wicked more than the nations, even more so than the surrounding pagan cultures.
That's a damning indictment.
It is, and the consequences are listed explicitly, echoing the covenant curses from Leviticus. Plague, famine, sword, wild beasts, and even, horrifically, cannibalism, a direct callback to Leviticus 26.29 for extreme disobedience. The irony is biting. Meant for honor, they became an object of scorn and taunting because of their rebellion.
And this all builds towards the pronouncement about the day of the Lord in chapter 7. We hear about this concept from other prophets like Amos, but Ezekiel turns the volume way up. He calls it a disaster, a one-of-a-kind disaster, and repeats, an end comes, the end comes. The finality is terrifying.
The repetition hammers it home. It's unavoidable. It's here.
And the imagery of the terror is just visceral. Sounds of tumult, not shouts of joy from the mountains, hands going limp, knees becoming weak as water, literally, people wetting themselves from fear.
Stark physical reactions to absolute terror.
People wearing sackcloth, shaving their heads in mourning, and get this, they'll throw their silver and gold into the streets like filth because it's completely useless.
Money can't save them. It's worthless in the face of this total collapse.
It paints this picture of complete apocalyptic distress, all illusions shattered. The raw consequence of turning away from God, not just a city falling, but a whole world order collapsing due to spiritual corruption.
The temple desecrated, the glory departs, and a new beginning.
Okay, so the story takes an even darker turn, if that's possible. Ezekiel gets transported again in visions of God back to Jerusalem. This is about 14 months after that first vision, maybe September 592 BC. And what he sees inside the temple, the holiest place, is just sickening. It reveals how deep the rot goes. First, there's this statue which provokes to jealousy, an idol right there in God's house, open spiritual adultery.
It's blatant, and it doesn't stop there. He's shown secret chambers where elders are worshiping images of reptiles and detestable beasts painted on the walls. Then he sees women sitting at the temple gate, weeping for Tammuz.
Tammuz, the Mesopotamian god.
Yes, a pagan fertility god whose myth involved dying and descending to the underworld each year. This ritual mourning right at the temple entrance was completely alien to Yahweh worship. But maybe the most outrageous act comes last. He sees about 25 men, likely leaders or priests, in the inner court. Their backs are turned to the Lord's sanctuary, and they're bowing down, worshiping the sun toward the east.
Turning their backs on God's presence to worship the sun, inside his own temple.
It's the ultimate act of defiance and rejection, and God's reaction is explicit. These abominations drive me far from my sanctuary. They're literally pushing God out with their idolatry and injustice.
Which leads directly to one of the most heartbreaking parts of the whole book.
Yeah.
The departure of God's glory. Chapters 10 and 11. That brilliant presence, the kabod that filled the temple, it starts to move. It lifts off from above the cherubim inside the Holy of Holies.
Right. It moves incrementally. First, it pauses at the threshold of the temple building itself. The whole temple court fills with the brightness.
That moves again.
Yes, it moves from the threshold to the east gate of the Lord's house, and then, agonizingly, it lifts up from the middle of the city entirely. It finally comes to rest over the mountain east of Jerusalem. That's the Mount of Olives.
Wow. It's a staged, deliberate departure. God abandoning the defiled city and temple.
It signifies the withdrawal of his protection and presence, a direct consequence of their actions.
And crucially, you mentioned earlier the description of the cherubim and the wheels here. It matches the first vision perfectly, right?
Exactly. The consistency reinforces that this isn't just symbolic. Ezekiel is witnessing a real, albeit visionary, cosmic event. The same divine chariot that revealed God's glory is now carrying it away.
And this theme of treachery, both spiritual and political, is driven home with these really vivid parables, like the one about the two eagles and the vine in chapter 17.
Yes, a powerful political allegory. The first great eagle with great wings that's clearly Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. He comes to Lebanon, representing Jerusalem, and takes the topmost shoot of the cedar, that's King Jehoiachin, into exile in Babylon.
Okay, historical fact.
Then Nebuchadnezzar plants a seedling from the land, making it a lowly spreading vine. This is Zedekiah, the puppet king installed by Babylon, meant to be dependent.
But the vine starts reaching out somewhere else.
Exactly. The vine bends its roots towards another great eagle. This one represents Pharaoh Hophra of Egypt. Zedekiah secretly sends envoys to Egypt, seeking horses and a large army to rebel against Babylon, breaking his sworn oath.
Which was political suicide, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And a betrayal of his oath sworn in God's name.
Precisely. And the prophecy is blunt. Will it prosper? No. The vine will be plucked up, Zedekiah will be captured and die in Babylon. It's a perfect illustration of this rebellious house, breaking covenants both with God and with human powers, leading inevitably to ruin.
But just when it seems like all hope is lost, judgment is total, the message makes this incredible pivot towards restoration.
Yes, it's a stunning turn.
Huh.
In chapter 36, God promises something radical. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. This isn't just external cleanup, it's internal transformation, addressing the root cause of the rebellion.
How does he describe it?
He says, He will sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean from all impurities and idols, a spiritual cleansing, and crucially, I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh.
Stone to flesh. Hard and unresponsive to soft and receptive.
Exactly, a heart capable of actually responding to God, enabling obedience to his lies not out of obligation, but from a changed nature. And the result? Then you will live in the land I gave your ancestors. You will be my people, and I will be your God. It's covenant renewal, based entirely on God's grace and his desire for relationship, not on their deserving it.
And then, almost like architectural plans for this renewed future, Ezekiel gets this incredibly detailed vision of a new temple. Chapters 40 to 48. And when we say detailed, we mean detailed. The level of specificity is just mind-boggling.
It really is. It's not just vague description.
No, he measures everything. The outer wall, 6 cubits thick, 6 cubits high, that's about 10.5 feet each way.
Yeah.
Gate thresholds, 10.5 feet deep. Alcoves, 10.5 feet square with 8.75 feet between them. Porches, entrances, courts, chambers for priests, tables for sacrifices down to the cubit and finger breadth.
The temple porch itself, 20 cubits by 11 cubits, roughly 35 by 19 feet.
It feels less like a vision and more like a blueprint. What's the significance of all this meticulous detail?
It signifies a return to divine order, precision, and holiness, contrasting sharply with the previous chaos and defilement. It's about establishing things correctly, permanently this time. And the climax of this section, in chapter 43, is the return of God's glory.
The glory comes back.
Yes. It comes from the east, the same way it left. The sound is again like rushing water, and the earth radiated his glory. And this time, it fills the temple, and God declares his intention to dwell there among the people of Israel forever. It's a permanent return.
Wow. So significant.
So significant that the outer east gate, the one the glory entered through, is to remain permanently shut. Chapter 44. No human can use it. Only the prince, the leader, can sit inside its gateway to eat sacrificial meals before the Lord. It marks the unique holiness of God's re-entry and abiding presence.
And flowing out from under the threshold of this new glory-filled temple comes the river of life in chapter 47.
One of the most beautiful images in the book.
It starts as a trickle, but gets deeper and deeper until it's a river you can't cross.
And wherever this river flows, it brings life. It flows down to the Dead Sea.
That incredibly salty, lifeless lake.
And makes its waters fresh. It becomes teeming with fish. Fishermen will line its banks. And the trees? Along the riverbanks, trees will grow that bear fruit every single month. New fruit continually. And their leaves are for healing.
It's like a return to Eden. Total restoration, abundance, healing, flowing right from God's presence. A stark contrast to the earlier judgment.
Absolutely. And the vision concludes with the land being redivided among the 12 tribes, reestablishing order and inheritance. But significantly, it includes a provision for the foreigners who reside among you and have children.
Oh, really? How are they treated?
They are to be treated as native-born Israelites and must be allotted an inheritance within the tribe where they reside.
That's incredibly inclusive for the time.
It points to a future community defined more by faithfulness and dwelling with God than by bloodline alone. A vision of unity. And finally, the city itself gets a new name, not Jerusalem, but Yahweh Shammah. The Lord is there. It perfectly encapsulates the whole message of the book. Despite everything, rebellion, judgment, exile, God's ultimate plan is to return and dwell permanently with his people. His presence is the final word.
The ultimate showdown and lasting hope.
Now, towards the very end of the book, chapters 38 and 39, Ezekiel lays out this, well, truly dramatic prophecy. It feels like an ultimate showdown. It involves this mysterious figure, Gog, from the land of Magog. It really has an apocalyptic feel to it.
It does. It depicts a final, massive assault against God's restored people.
Gog is described as the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. These sound like ancient, powerful northern nations.
They often represented distant, somewhat menacing powers in the ancient worldview.
And he comes from the remote parts of the north in the latter days. With this huge multinational army, Persia, Cush, Put, Gomer, Beth Togarmah, described like a cloud covering the earth.
It's portrayed as this final, seemingly overwhelming challenge to God's newly established peace and sovereignty in Israel.
Who or what is this Gog, really? Is it a specific person or nation?
That's been debated for centuries. Some try to identify Gog with historical figures or modern nations, but contextually, Gog seems to function more as an archetype. He represents the ultimate embodiment of hostility towards God and his people, emerging from the symbolic north, the traditional direction of invasion and threat. It's less about predicting a specific political leader and more about depicting the final, feudal raging of chaos against God's established order before ultimate peace.
So it's the final test.
In a sense, but the outcome is never in doubt, because the invasion triggers a massive, direct, divine response.
And it's cataclysmic, isn't it? God says his hot anger will be aroused. He speaks of a great earthquake hitting the land of Israel, so powerful that everything shakes.
Everything. Fish, birds, animals, creeping things, all people on earth will tremble. Mountains will be overturned. Cliffs will collapse. Walls will fall. It's cosmic deconstruction.
So God himself fights back using nature.
Absolutely. He rains down torrents of rain, hailstones, fire, and sulfur on Gog and his hordes. He sends pestilence. He even causes Gog's armies to turn their swords against each other in confusion.
It's not Israel's army that wins this battle.
Not at all. It's purely divine intervention, a demonstration of God's overwhelming power against the forces that oppose him.
And the aftermath described is just staggering. It emphasizes the totality of the defeat.
Completely. Gog and his entire multitude fall dead on the mountains of Israel. Their bodies are left as food for birds of prey and wild animals. A complete dishonorable end.
And the cleanup operation.
It takes the house of Israel 7 months just to bury all the dead and cleanse the land from the contamination. Everyone participates. It shows the sheer scale of the defeated army.
And then there's that detail about the weapons.
Right, it's incredible. For 7 years, the people of Israel will use the enemy's abandoned weapons, shields, bows, arrows, clubs, spears, as fuel for their fires.
7 years worth of fuel just lying there.
Exactly. They won't need to gather wood from the fields or cut down trees from the forests. The spoils of war provide for their needs abundantly. It's a picture of absolute victory, security, and even provision arising from the judgment itself.
So this massive final judgment against Gog, the cleansing, the peace, what's the ultimate point God is making here?
God states it explicitly. Thus I will manifest my greatness and my holiness and make myself known in the eyes of many nations. And again, then the nations will know that I am the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. This definitive victory serves as a final, irrefutable demonstration of God's sovereignty and holiness to the entire world. It vindicates his name, it permanently silences opposition and allows Israel to finally live securely in their land, and no one shall make them afraid. It secures the promises of restoration.
Okay, so we've journeyed through these intense visions. The cosmic chariot, the harsh judgments, the departing and returning glory, the new temple, this final battle. They're so deeply rooted in the specific context of Babylonian exile and the hope for Israel's return. But that brings up the big question. How do these ancient, culturally specific visions speak to us today? What's the enduring message beyond that historical moment?
That's the crucial takeaway, isn't it? While the context is ancient, the themes resonate powerfully. Ezekiel hammers home the theme of individual responsibility. Chapter 18 is revolutionary for its time, shifting focus from purely corporate or generational guilt. The soul who sins is the one who will die. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon himself, and the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon himself.
Personal accountability.
Yes, but it's coupled immediately with the offer of life. Repent and live. It's a call to personal decision and transformation that's timeless. Then there's God's unwavering commitment to justice. He doesn't overlook sin, the judgments are severe, but it's always aimed at purification and restoration. And perhaps most importantly, God's incredible faithfulness. Despite Israel's profound and repeated rebellion, God remains faithful to his covenant promises. He initiates the restoration. He gives the new heart. He brings his presence back. So it's ultimately a story of hope grounded in God's character. Exactly. The visions, from the dynamic, mobile glory of the chariot to the promise of Yahweh Shammah, paint a picture of a God who is actively engaged, judges justly, but whose ultimate desire is to restore relationship and dwell with his people. It's a narrative arc of judgment leading to profound, enduring hope and divine presence.
Wow, what an incredible journey that was, diving deep into Ezekiel's visions. We went from that mind-bending cosmic chariot, really pushing the limits of description, through the grim reality of Jerusalem's fall, the shock of the temple's desecration, and then landed on that breathtaking blueprint for a renewed temple, a restored people, and a future filled with life flowing from God's presence.
It really is an epic suite. From glory departing due to sin, through the fire of judgment, to glory returning permanently, bringing life, order, and that lasting presence.
That message of God's enduring presence, the Lord is there, really does feel like the heart of it all.
It's the ultimate resolution. Despite everything, God's purpose to dwell with his creation prevails. It's a powerful anchor of hope.
Definitely. And here's something to maybe mull over as you go about your day. Think about that profound connection we saw between the almost obsessive, meticulous detail and the measurements of the new temple, every cubit, every gateway, just so precise. And connect that back to the cosmic precision and intricate structure of Ezekiel's very first vision. The wheels, the synchronized movement, the living beings. What might that parallel suggest about the underlying nature of order versus chaos, and maybe about divine purpose woven into the very fabric of existence, from the cosmic down to the specific? Perhaps there's a deep inherent structure even when things seem most chaotic. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of The Deep Dive. We hope it sparked some thoughts and maybe encouraged you to keep exploring these incredible texts. Until next time, keep digging deep.
Believer talks, let's take a look. Life and hope in every book.